Good morning or good day, and warmly welcome to this session with the title Regional Needs, Opportunities and Challenges Related to the Regional Energy System in the Future. My name is Mona Enell-Nilsson. I'm working as a research director at the University of Vaasa, and I'm very happy to moderate this session here today together with my colleagues in the frame of the PEAK project. You see a lot of names on the first slide, so I'm very happy to introduce Antti Mäenpää from the University of Vaasa, Giovanna Pinilla de la Cruz from the University of Vaasa, now sitting in the back row, and then we also have from our collaboration partner Aktion Österbotten, being in the PEAK project, Piritta Syrjälä and Mattias Högbacka will most likely be here also in a minute or two. We would like to now switch a little bit. We heard the panel discussions this morning downstairs, focusing on how kind of Finland and the Vaasa region can work and function as a test lab for then also supporting the energy transition internationally and so on. We would like to slightly switch the focus towards more around the regional energy transition and what we as regional actors actually can do for accelerating the energy transition in our own region. The agenda is the following, so we will start with a short background and also just shortly talk about the PEAK project. Then we will go into shortly our current findings, and the main part of this session we would like to use for a small group discussion. So you have been listening maybe downstairs this morning, and then we would like to activate you and discuss around a couple of questions in a small group discussion. So for the ones following the streaming, that small group discussion will then not be able to follow via the stream, and then to finally then end with a summary. I would here hand over to Antti.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Antti Mäenpää, assistant professor from University of Vaasa. And a little bit we heard in the previous presentations already about this need to kind of shift the energy system and how it is changing. Of course, we have all probably heard the news about the rise of AI and electrification of, for example, transportation and other sectors of society. So need for kind of, or demand for energy is rising at a very rapid pace. And of course, this means that there needs to be some then supply of this energy. And now, because we are talking about renewable energy solutions, it's most often kind of these distributed energy solutions, wind power and solar power, meaning that it's not the similar system as the previous one, which means that there is kind of this need for flexibility for the energy system. So this is the kind of the big overall picture, and of course this also means other things like energy storage systems and other things that to help to kind of break this, make the system function better, because the energy flow is not fluent in that sense, because it's based on weather conditions. So there needs to be kind of adjustments between the systems, and this is the kind of the big overall shift that we are kind of facing now with the renewable energy coming out. And of course, there has been these national discussions. There has been now lots of discussion in Finland about these data centers, and it has always also been this not just discussion about the kind of the production of energy, but also like how to utilize it in a proper way. There has been this discussion about the security issues, like who are using these data centers, are they kind of potential security threats themselves? What are they capable of doing for the Finnish system? And of course, now yesterday there was some news about the utilization of water. How much water do these data centers actually use? And is this a threat for the Finnish nature then? So there's lots of these discussions going on in the Finnish system, energy system, and how we should use it in the best possible way. And of course, there is also the discussion on now with the windmills, the distance between the windmills and people. So how much do you need this space? And this is something which is also prepared currently on the national level. So this of course affects a lot on the road, on the regional level, because if the distance will be decided on a national level by law, for example, that there will be a huge distance that is required, this means that there is less potential investment opportunities for regions. So national level discussions are ongoing, and of course this means that somebody at the regional level should also be having these sort of local discussions. What does this mean to us, and how should we react? Should we be doing something? Should we be lobbying something at this point to kind of secure that the regions are able to decide themselves what they want to do? Because of course they are ultimately the ones who decide with the landowners and the municipalities, like what is going to happen in the local level. So this discussion is very important, and this is something that we are now actually trying to have here. So have this sort of regional discussion on what should be done, what we should be doing. But I think that I'll next introduce Giovanna to talk about a little bit about the PEAKS project and our findings.
Okay, good morning everyone, and thank you and welcome to our workshop. And yes, my name is Giovanna Pinilla de la Cruz. I'm a postdoctoral researcher of BEVIC platform at the University of Vaasa. And yes, I'm so happy to present our project PEAK. So this project emerged from the need to increase or build awareness about the transformation of our current energy system. So it's undeniable that our traditional way or related with the concept of energy is changing. And now we need to get involved in this kind of activities. We cannot be passive anymore. We need to take an active role. We need to know what is our consumption. We need to know if we are able actually to save energy or to produce our own energy, to become a prosumer. So all these roles are needed, and we need to be active in that matter. So we all need to contribute to this. And why this is important in the terms of the regional development? Because if we don't pay attention to this, so it could affect also the energy security. And this is very, very important, and also is related to the price of electricity and so on. So this is the main, I will say, the main goal of this project, to increase or create awareness about the need of the transformation of the energy system at state, getting involved with all these regional stakeholders. So we have our PEAK project. This is a 2-year project with regional funding, about 200,000. The target area are the some municipalities in Ostrovodnia. Special emphasis, and the area under consideration is next to the SE Electrocraft, this kind of company. So we are working mainly in this kind of area. So municipalities, for example, Pedersören, for example, Kauhava in South Ostrovodnia. So this kind of municipalities. So with these results of our project, we aim to create knowledge and spread this knowledge to other municipalities, other companies also. We have kind of a high qualified team. We count with people from the University of Vaasa, from different perspectives. We have people from the business side, from the technological side, from the social science, from marketing and communication side, from BEVIC platform also. So we have this interdisciplinary, but we also work in close collaboration with Action Österbotten and SE Electrocraft. So we have kind of a nice group of people working in this project. If we see our project, we see three main, let's say, dimensions here. One is the techno-economic dimension. So we aim to provide knowledge about understanding of the grid development and the transformation measure to enable grid reinforcement, demand response, flexibility. These kind of new terms perhaps for the community, but are very important in terms of what is happening with the grids. And you know, We have, for example, S Electrocraft. We are working with this company in close collaboration, and they are adding some capacity in terms, for example, of solar power. So what happened with the grid is really, really important. And try to see what is the flexibility, what are the implications of adding more capacity and adding more demand to this grid. So this is the concept of flexibility, how flexible we are when we have these new resources, and we have uncertainty, of course, because with new resources, for example, in terms of wind, of solar, there is we call it variable energy sources or variable energy resources, because there is a variability depending on the weather, basically. But we also have the business side. So in the business side, the aim is to know what are the possible business model applied in, for example, to working with communities with the company, with the electricity grid, and so on. These or the, for example, the grid working with other authorities, and all this kind of interrelation, and how to make the most of these opportunities, because at the end, it's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. And we have something really important, community-based, stakeholder involvement. If the stakeholders are not involved in this kind of project, it's impossible to kind of produce a realistic scenario or produce a realistic transformation. So it's really important for us. That's why we have kind of a high qualified team working in the activation with the stakeholder, doing different workshops, conducting different activities, and try to see what are the needs and what are the challenges in the communities. And then we have already 1 year, of working in this project. We have some nice findings. For example, in the work package 1 related to the techno-economic analysis. First, we map what are the regional energy potential based on the current energy projects, wind and power. So we map what are the projects and what are related to the area of, say, Electrocraft. And you can find the reports in our website if you would like to see. And we have also our second report related to the flexibility, customer current flexibility potential and potential of flexible resource. So here we are talking about, for example, what is the potential of working with the demand side management. That involves the community, the farmers, companies, and people around, people who are consuming the energy. So what are the possibilities? Do we have chance of getting at least of savings or let's say increasing the flexibility of our regional grid by working with community, by working with farmers, by working with companies, with industries? So you will find this kind of information in this report. Of course, it's a bit technical, but we hope to have at the end of this work package 1 kind of a summary of all this work and put it in such a way or such a language that it could be more, let's say, friendly and, yes, understandable for all the community. And then we have the techno-economical analysis of battery energy storage, something important when we are talking about variable resources like wind and solar, is what is the uncertainty, how variable is this, and how to storage the energy. So start working in battery energy storage is something really important for the energy companies. And it will guarantee also the stability in price. So decrease the volatility of the price, increase the efficiency. So they have many, let's say, advantage of working with battery energy storage. So we have kind of our study also in battery energy storage. So we got in our results a great potential for this kind of work with battery energy storage located in one specific, let's say, area and some specific and technical, let's say, characteristics. And it provides flexibility, of course. The demand response, we have some strategies for the demand response. So it's mean, in general terms of simple words, working with communities, integrated renewable energy sources as solar, wind, flexible resources, and flexibility strategies. So this is that we have at the moment. And then in terms of the work package 2, related to the community involvement, stakeholder, we have the identification of relevant stakeholders and the representative activation of identified stakeholders. We have some activities conducted by my colleagues here. Interviews, workshop, discussion. This is actually one of the activities, so we would like to know what we are thinking, what are your concerns, what happened, your expectations, so that's part of this. Understanding the opportunities and challenges related to the development of the energy system from the stakeholders' perspective. In the work package 3, we have business model. So this work package is just starting, and we start with a background study related to what is happening around the world in terms of the business model in the regional base. And after that, the next step is related to identify how we can apply those business models. Yeah, I mean that how this business model could be suitable for our community, our farmers, our industry, our local services, so on. So if we find that match, so we can start thinking, okay, this is suitable, we can start implementing or having pilots in a further step. So it's kind of a holistic approach that we have in this project from different dimensions, and we hope to continue providing this information and working with all of you. So I leave the stage for my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. In work package 2, which Giovanna already introduced, we have been working with stakeholders in different ways. And one thing we have been doing is that we have been carrying out interviews with regional stakeholders. And we have been talking in a semi-structured interview format about the future energy systems, expectations, also then around opportunities and challenges and so on. And I would like to thank the regional stakeholders which were available for our interviews. We have been setting up the interviews so that we wanted to have interviewees from academia, from industry and businesses, also from governmental institutions, and also representatives from civil society. And of course, in our regional context, it's very often that one person is having several hats. So all of us are typically also civil society representatives, and we have persons having a business and being via their main work then also in other functions. So this was very clear when we had our interviews. I would just shortly like to summarize what the interviewees kind of opportunities and challenges, what kind of opportunities and challenges they were raising, and this is then also feeding into our small group discussion. So we will in the small groups discuss from your perspective also if you see opportunities and challenges, and now we really talk about how to develop our own regional energy system. So regional assets, these were highlighted that our landscape as such is suitable for renewable energy production. We have the energy cluster expertise and also the research expertise connected to that. We have an entrepreneurial spirit, being kind of positive towards innovation and innovative actions. Then biogas was very much highlighted in the discussions, and you can see the different aspects connected to that. Then of course all kind of technology development, and we did not list everything here, but hydrogen is something, and the kind of everything connected to hydrogen. This was very much stressed in the interview. interviews. Then the different storage solutions, some of them are also specified here, and also the future regarding small modular reactors and what that can mean for the regional energy system. Efficiency improvement, one thing that was strongly highlighted also in the interviews, and then the small scale initiatives. We have a lot of large initiatives in our region, and sometimes these small scale initiatives could also then create a very, very large impact, but are sometimes also forgotten in our discussion, since the large initiatives and really large scale initiatives get more focus. And then that there's an interest in sustainability initiatives in general, which is also for marketing purposes, for instance, from a municipality point of view, very important. And a few words about the challenges, investments and funding, both for large scale but also for small scale projects, and also for the small scale projects to understand what models would function in our regional context, and then to also share knowledge among regional actors about functioning models, and then also these kind of established functioning solutions, how can we also then have the funding secured from a long-term perspective for them, and not just think in the new innovative actions directions. Energy transition complexity, that's always highlighted in discussions around the energy transition. So the kind of knowledge, and one person cannot know everything, and how we can collaborate in this context, and then also the division of roles, that we have sometimes overlapping functions, and sometimes we have kind of a blank spot which is not really filled with anyone's responsibility. And the requirement for new forms of collaboration in this context. The regional energy production and different aspects around that. Antti mentioned some of them also being, of course, part of the national discussion around where do we produce, and where do we have the transmission lines, and where is the consumption happening. The social acceptance of renewable technology, a very, very important concern, challenge, and an issue about the exploitation of certain areas, and then also how to understand and how the kind of label of green transition is then used for different purposes, for instance. Then the regulations and support schemes. If we from Finland and also operate on a joint market, and some countries have other support schemes, then it's not really fair competition. And then also in terms of market regulation and also the support schemes, a consistency and not like a kind of a stability there, in order for actors to also be able to work from a long-term perspective around different issues. And then the electrification and electricity prices. We talk about a lot about the electrification of society, but if we actually would just go for that now, we will face really, really large challenges. So to also think about other solutions, for instance, for district heating purposes. Also then the AI, Antti mentioned that already in the introduction, and then also, of course, the consumer's willingness and also ability to pay more for electricity, the whole energy poverty discussion and these concerns. From here, we would simply now like to move into the small group discussion. So we have printed those challenges and opportunities on papers on the small tables. I think we can easily split in 3 groups, and we could do it also based on language. I would suggest I can facilitate a Swedish speaking discussion at one table. Antti can facilitate an English discussion, and Piritta could facilitate a Finnish speaking discussion. And if you would like to network and not sit with your colleagues, if you have the same mother tongue, you're of course free to just join the English table, even though you are Swedish or Finnish speaking. And we can also flexibly then use at least from our side, we can flexibly use the 3 languages in the small groups. And around the question of, do you agree with that, what we have been summarizing here, something missing, something essential missing? And then related to this, what specific needs do we see now to kind of take advantage of the opportunities to overcome the challenges? And then also, if we're able to go into the direction of concrete actions. We're regional actors. I can recognize most of the audience, so also to think from a future project perspective, what would we need to pick up? And we have also the possibility to inform of workshops connected to the PEAK project, collaborate with you other actors if we see certain aspects and concrete actions we would like to highlight. For the small group discussion, I would like to mention that we would like to take photos for our project purposes. Please let me know if you're not convenient with being in the photos. And then there's also an attendance list. I think it's on the coffee table right now, but we can let that circulate during the small group discussion. I think we will have around 25 minutes, around until 10 to 20-25 minutes for the small group discussion, and then we will shortly summarize that and then also talk about shortly the next steps for our project. I would ask the small groups to wrap up the discussion, since we will make sure that we can end our session and pass on to the next group starting sharp 12. I would simply ask the ones facilitating the discussions to shortly summarize, and you can, Piritta, do it in Finnish if that's more convenient. Just pick the language.
Should I try to speak English? I started my working days yesterday, so I'm still on holiday mode, so please forgive me my language. We were speaking quite much about like energy systems in local, and we spoke quite much about geopolitical systems and how that affects different kind, but and also why what we did, and about like reusing like batteries of cars, and yeah, like we have done in here, and also that is there any like home scale ways to make electricity and also store it. But I will give you these my notes after, so you can maybe.
Thank you so much. And Antti, can you just in a couple of sentences also summarize what you discussed?
Yes, so very briefly, we were discussing about institutionalization of the issues that there is. So there is the need to kind of combine different things, different views, different solutions, and we need someone to kind of meditate this discussion and kind of push forward these suggestions. So institutionalizing some of these issues would be very good. Then we also discussed about the type, should we have formal or informal institutions, and the discussion was that we need formal institutions who have also some power to make these decisions and are legitimized by the local people. So one option, for example, is this this energy community that is now being developed in the EU, so perhaps that would be some sort of instance that could be considered in the future also. But I think that our discussion was mostly about this kind of institutionalization of issues.
Yes, and in our discussion, it was around flexibility that the vehicles can provide, and also around the heavy traffic. So around also the forest machines and so on, how in future the batteries of these can be utilized. And then it was also then highlighted that the biogas in the kind of for vehicles should not be forgotten in our region. So to also think about that for also the heavy traffic and so on. Then we talked about charging structures and how to plan so-called, you talked about green corridors somehow from the planning perspective, to also make sure that the charging points and the charging infra is in the right locations, then also enabling or giving possibilities for flexibility in a more efficient way. We talked about the academy-industry collaboration, and that it's good to keep in mind that we have the full region, and also how university and companies can collaborate also from the more northern or southern parts of our region. And then we talked about a science park initiative, which Göran is taking up in our region, or locally in Vaasa actually, so something like Heureka-like in Vaasa. Also then supporting that we have future generations with talents in physics, chemistry, and natural sciences. So this was a short summary of our discussion. I would like to warmly thank you for taking part in the discussion and for all your contributions. The PEAK project will continue, as Giovanna said, until next year, and feel free to reach out to us if you have ideas for collaboration. And we also we have a LinkedIn account, so you can connect with the project in LinkedIn, and we also have a project website, so if the slides will be shared, you will also have access via this. I think we have been using our time, and I would simply then hand over to our colleagues from the University of Vaasa and Minka project.
Just a moment, we set up.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start our presentation. As you can see, the title of the presentation is Tackling Greenhouse Gas Emissions Throughout Supply Chain with AI and Other Digital Technologies. So as you can see that this is a Minka project, and this project is South Ostrobothnia region, and in this project, the target or aims is to minimize the scope 3 emissions from supply chain, basically, and SMEs mostly. Before we go for this, we called it scope 3. So there are scope 1 and scope 2. So what is scope 1? Emission, which is directly coming from your own company, your own vehicle, your own production line. This is scope 1. And scope 2 is indirect, like you are purchasing some raw materials from other companies, then it is scope 2. And scope 3 also indirect emission, like your product is transported and delivered by other third company, then this is scope 3, and also your own travel, business travel also consider this scope 3. So in our this project, we also try to identify, measure, and reduce this scope 3 emissions from supply chain companies mostly. And this specifically we try to target 4 different business sectors, as you can see. Number 1 is manufacturing, number 2 is transportation, number 3 is construction sector and agriculture. So all these 4 areas we will try to minimize these scope 3 emissions. Now I'd like to hand over to Juha Arrasvuori, please.
Thank you, So we are now talking about the Minka project. We are a multidisciplinary project team from University of Vaasa, both from the School of Technology and Innovations and the Digital Economy Research Platform. Our responsible reader, just introduced us to the topic. We have here also our project manager, Camilla, and from the project team, myself, Juha Arrasvuori, and Oskari Huttunen, and Pirjo Yliviitala, and also Jang is remotely following what's our online presentation is going. So this Minka project is a 2-year project. We are now at the half stage. First year has gone by and 1 year still ahead. To give a bit more background of the Scope 3 emissions, as they have been defined in the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, they are a huge source of greenhouse gas emissions. So this McKinsey report from 3 years ago, it estimates that Scope 3 emissions may represent up to 90% of a business's all greenhouse gas emissions, although the figure may vary by industry. So we are tackling a huge problem, and there's a huge opportunities to be obtained if these Scope 3 emissions can be tackled. But the real challenge is also that Scope 3 emissions, by definition, they occur outside the limits of a company, meaning that in order to mitigate its Scope 3 emissions, a company has to look outside its upstream or towards its downstream activities. So both in the upstream and downstream activities, what are the business partners, distributors, or even end customers who they could collaborate with in order to identify the possible sources to make the greenhouse gas cuts. So this picture, it's not clearly visible, but there are altogether 15 categories of Scope 3 emissions combined from the upstream and then the downstream directions. So obviously, it's important to make reductions to greenhouse gas emissions. That's what European Union is committed to, for example. It may cause direct savings and many business benefits can be obtained. However, there's also this demands for reporting greenhouse gas emissions related to Scope 3. This CSRD directive may soon become obligatory even for smaller businesses, meaning that the small businesses have to report yearly their greenhouse gas emissions, even in the Scope 3 category. And this voluntary reporting, VSME, that they may then become like something that is expected from your business partners, that you are an environmentally acknowledgeable company, so you make voluntarily your report through VSME, your Scope 3 emissions. So this Scope 3 field is a huge field where we think we can help in the Minka project. We have been funded by the European Regional Development Fund and the Regional Council of South Ostrobothnia, meaning that the project activities will focus in the South Ostrobothnia region. However, value chains typically extend across regions, so we would like to say that with Minka we tackle locally a national and even an international challenge. But so, like said, we are a project targeting initially South Ostrobothnia. So what are now the Scope 3 related challenges that are faced by businesses in this region? And my colleague Oskari will tell about this.
Yes, thank you, Juha. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the survey that we conducted in Southern Ostrobothnia. So we distributed the survey among local SMEs in the region, and the objective was to assess the current practices, some perceived challenges, and the potential for collaborative emission reduction initiatives such as this project. The research consisted of 2 sequential surveys, so a shorter starter survey and then a more detailed follow-up survey. And the survey was distributed directly to 163 companies via email, as well as being included in a commercial newsletter and distributed with flyers at the business event. So we got 16 responses for the shorter starter survey, and from those 10 opted also to participate in the longer, more detailed survey. So those companies represent the more engaged parties in the sustainability topics. And then some example findings from the online survey. So these three questions are good as an overview of the situation. So the text is quite small, but the first one is, which of the scope 3 emission categories do you measure in your company? So for this one we got 4 responses out of the 10 from the more detailed survey. So this already tells us that not even all the companies which were interested enough to answer this survey don't measure these emissions at all, but from those who do are focused on waste and transportation mostly. I think those are the easiest ones to sort of comprehend, even for those companies who are not so into these yet. That could be the reason. Then the second one, what are the biggest obstacles your company faces in measuring scope 3 emissions? So straight away, lack of resources, lack of data, complexity, lack of expertise. So this tells us that companies think that they don't have the resources or capabilities to tackle these emissions themselves. Then what challenges make it difficult to reduce scope 3 emissions in your company? There the highest percents are lack of knowledge, skills, lack of resources, limited influence on suppliers. So again, lack of capabilities, and then on the other hand, lack of influence over your partners upstream, sorry. So this overview serves as a justification to such initiatives. So there's clear need for these sort of projects in Southern Ostrobothnia. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Oskari. So our approach, based on this background that Oskari explained in detail, we can say that the participating South Ostrobothnian businesses are at different stages in managing their greenhouse gas emissions. That applies to also managing their scope 3 emissions. Thus, our approach in the Minka project has been the co-creation of digital tools with the participating SMEs. So we will offer digital tools matching the different stages where the businesses are at managing their scope emission management and scope emission 3 mitigation activities. So we call the stage 1 as learn. It's about understanding the sources of scope 3 emissions, what are the 15 categories, how they can be tracked, and so forth. For this first stage, we have implemented demo 1, which is a conversational AI-based tool for helping businesses to understand the significance of indirect emissions and to identify the most relevant emission sources in their particular operations. And then the stage 2, building on the learning, is then to identify, visualize, and apply, meaning that to start identifying and then calculating the scope 3 emissions in the business's supply chain. For this purpose, we are in the process of implementing Demo 2, which is a tool that enables businesses to visualize and understand the emission impacts of their supply chain, and thus to target the greenhouse gas mitigation actions effectively and accordingly to what is in their value or business chain or supply chain particularly. And then finally, for the stage 3, which we called implement and develop, here we want the businesses to build concepts and plan actions to start mitigating these scope 3 emissions. And for this purpose, we have implemented Demo 3, which is an AI-based tool for identifying and reviewing suitable good practices as a starting point. I will explain this in a moment. However, in the Minka team, we feel that we want to engage the companies not only to use the tools that we offer, but to participate in the piloting, meaning that in parallel, while piloting these demos, we arrange seminars and workshops in which we then facilitate a co-creation between the Minka team and the participating companies, but also the businesses who are in the project, and then throughout their value chain, other businesses as well. And this way, the Minka project starts from South Ostrobothnian companies locally, but then can extend nationally and even internationally when the companies start to use these demos and visualize their supply chains and identify perhaps emission sources abroad that could be mitigated through collaborative actions. And also taking customers, the end customers, to be part of this process of planning together how the use of the product could be changed in such a way that it would, in the end, use or produce less greenhouse gas emissions. So we would like to say that through this Minka project, we provide a framework for these SMEs within which to start learning about these Scope 3 emissions and then start the concrete mitigation actions as well. And then another matter are these good practices, which are examples of successful implementations of these green supply chain management innovation activities. So with this we mean these 5 actions. Customer cooperation. As I mentioned, it's really important to in tackling Scope 3 emissions is to involve the customers in the process, as the emissions happen outside the company in question. That's why customer cooperation is important, and to have good practices, how that has been implemented in industries in practice. Also eco-design, have good practices as examples, as do green purchasing, internal environment management, and inventory recovery. So all these good practices exemplify good examples on how to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions in the same industry or in related fields of industry. And by providing these good practices, the companies do not have to start from scratch, from zero, but then can start with the help of the sparring provided by the AI tools to start thinking how our company could apply this particular good practice. These 3 demos are offered through one single platform, which is this Scope 3 platform. It's in the address www.scope3.fi. It's a website that hosts all the demo tools and also supplemental learning materials. So we have put all these materials in all in one solution, one single web page through which access all the information. And in this web page, we have this supportive virtual character called Minka, who guides the participant throughout the learning and the development process. So we have, with this Minka character, who has the same name as the project, try to humanize and make the learning and development process more engaging. So currently the platform and the demos are a work in progress, and all the materials have been are in Finnish language, but today we will show you a demonstration as a through machine language translation. In other words, what we show is originally in Finnish, but we will try to show it automatically translated to you in English. And next, Pirjo will explain how this demo 3 was created, and I will also then demonstrate it live. Let's see how it goes.
Thank you, Juha. So next I will present demo 3, an AI tool to help companies to identify good practices for managing their Scope 3 emissions. I'll briefly show its development and a short demo. This slide shows how we built the knowledge base for AI and for Demo 3. So we collected around 20 company cases. We analyzed them in order to identify good practices for managing Scope 3 emissions. Then we categorized each practices under one of the 15 Scope 3 emission categories. These practices were structured using a standardized template readable by AI. And the result is a database that enables a retrieval of relevant practices based on the user selections. So at first we developed a so-called low fidelity prototype. And that was co-created with SMEs during a workshop. Then we created service blueprint, and that service blueprint defined the structure and system logic. And finally, we developed so-called mid-fidelity interactive prototype, and that was AI-driven prototype. Let's look at the first development phase, where we created low fidelity prototype. And this prototype kind of simulated a 5-step interaction flow, as you can see here. And here users could filter these good practices based by the value chain position, upstream activities or downstream activities. Users could also filter these good practices based on the emission category or phase of management, meaning identification or calculation or reduction of these Scope 3 emissions. And the feedback from SMEs was that they found this tool to be, or prototype to be easy and clear and easy to follow. And they also wanted that these good practices to be both simple yet detailed enough in order to adapt these practices into their context. And this prototype was presented as a PowerPoint slideshow in a workshop with SMEs. And this enabled us to gather kind of structured feedback already at the early stage of the development. The second phase, the development phase, was service blueprint. And this mapped user flow from initial input to AI-supported guidance. And this service blueprint kind of connected front-stage user actions with system logic and supporting systems. And it also clarified how AI may support filtering of these good practices and how AI may deliver the content, the good practice. So this demo tree was built using a visual conversation design tool in order to simulate logic and AI-enhanced interaction flow based on our service blueprint. Currently it's in Finnish, but automatic translation is available through browser tools. And this demo tree, an interactive prototype, enables users to filter AI-generated good practices for Scope 3 emission reductions by role, category, and phase of management. And now I will show an example dialogue using this Minka chatbot. So Minka chatbot opens by providing two pathways. At first, understanding Scope 3 emissions, and then filtering good practices. And in the case of demo 3, I will select here good practices in order to continue. And now Minka chatbot asks more information about the user company. And here I will say that we manufacture textiles. Then Minka asks which one interests you more, meaning good practices in upstream activities or good practices in downstream activities. And now I will select upstream activities. The next question is which emission category are you looking for good practice for? And here I will select waste generated during operations. And the final question is at what stage of emissions management do you need good practices? And here I will select reduction in order to continue. See things. Yes, and now Minka gives some good practices, and these practices seems to be from a company called Joutsen Finland, and Minka says that Joutsen Finland has developed a recycling option for customers directly in its stores, and that the company accepts used Joutsen products for recycling, which reduces waste going to landfill. And in addition to these good practices, Minka also tries to provide how these provided good practices could be implemented in other companies as well. So you could set up your own recycling program where customers can return used textiles to your stores or directly to the factory. Yes. And next takaisin. And next we are going to test this tool with SMEs in order to find out its real-world usability. Also knowledge base for AI will continue to grow, and we are also going to improve AI prompts and accuracy of the responses.
Thank you, Pirjo. And then a final word from our project manager, Camilla.
Yes, so here you've seen where we are today, and we heard from Pirjo a little bit about what is coming up for Demo 3. Of course, we do have the other 2 demos also that are wrapping up as we speak, and then also not to forget our web page, which will be expanded with time. But what is coming up next now during the fall is that we want to identify additional good practices for the Scope 3 mitigation. So you saw what one of them could look like, and as Pirjo said, we have 20 companies that we have looked for examples in, but hopefully we will still be able to expand that database and this kind of case library that we have for our web page. Then also what we would like to focus on is to create some kind of engaging learning materials, so easy ways for the public and the visitors to kind of grasp what these greenhouse gas protocols are, and also this information about Scope 3. And of course we want the platform to facilitate for the SMEs to adapt these greenhouse gas mitigation actions also in practice. So to help them in an easy way for them on their own also to look into it in their own pace. Then we want to finalize the demos. We've seen one of them today, but we also have the kind of start of it and then also the calculation demo coming up. And these will be launched on the webpage scope3.fi. Then, of course, like we have had today here, we want to pilot the demos in front of an audience so that they get to kind of experience what is going on as we tell about it, and hopefully then also get feedback. What is working, what is not working, what could we do better, and so on. And then collect the data in order to improve our material. Then, like Juha said, we are now halfway through our project, so we have 1 year to go. So we hope to conclude the work by next summer, and then also, of course, look into how we could extend and plan a follow-up for this kind of project, since these are not going away. These are becoming more and more present in our everyday life. So how can we get a new project in this field going? Thank you so much.
So thank you for your attention. It's 12:30, but I think there's time for a good one question summarizing what we have done. Any question or comments? If not, then please follow the scope3.fi platform and look at the materials and start trying the demos. Demo 1 and 3 are now in one version there already. So thank you for your time and have a good remainder of the day. Thanks.